Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Dr. Bash, who is here on behalf of RadNet. Well, Dr. Bash, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I have talked to RadNet in the past regarding artificial intelligence, and at that time it was just kind of a thought and they were thinking about incorporating it. But here we are, maybe a year or so later, and it is now being used. And even yourself, you said that you've been using it for some time now. So before we get into how it's being used, can you give me a background about what artificial intelligence really is?
Absolutely. Yes. Artificial intelligence is thriving within RadNet and really throughout the world. So it's something we've heard a lot about recently. So artificial intelligence, or AI, is a means of using computers to enhance human thinking. And AI doesn't only allow thought augmentation, but it can also improve our efficiency, our work efficiency, our revenue, quality, accuracy, and even safety. And amazingly, AI algorithms can actually learn from their own mistakes and keep improving over time, which I think is just fascinating. So the more data you feed, the better it gets. So we want computers really to take us to a place that we can't go ourselves. You know, we'd like computers to really improve our lives, our health, and our happiness, but in a way that's safe and universally beneficial. And so basically, we want computers to augment human capacity. And AI is playing a very important role, but we didn't really hear about it 20 years ago. You know, we hear a lot about it now. And really the reason is the currency of computers, which is data. We now have so much more data. So computers achieve AI by a means of running data through large computer-generated neural networks. And computers are now sophisticated enough that they can analyze large volumes of high-dimensional data and recognize patterns. And amazingly, computers are actually much better at humans than recognizing patterns. And so computers can be taught to answer questions that enhance human capabilities. And this is really helpful in all areas. But for me personally, as a neuroradiologist, I'm really interested in its potential in improving medical imaging. So AI is really poised to revolutionize not just medicine, but really all occupational sectors throughout the world. So all areas of our lives which are impacted by technology will soon be transformed by AI.
Well, and I think that there is some worry regarding that. However, before we even address that, one thing I do want to address is how RadNet is actually using it. I mean, obviously it's used, as you mentioned, in radiology, but what does it do to help the radiologist to be able to identify certain things?
Yes. So there are many different AI products on the market. RadNet uses AI products that work well in an outpatient setting. So I'm fortunate enough to work for a company that's actually the largest outpatient imaging enterprise in the United States, and they're very patient-centric and forward-thinking. So they've always been very open to AI, and they're using AI to improve. Well, we're all using AI to improve patient care. So I can give you some examples of what we do. For example, we use AI products to help us with billing on the front end, because that's something that's very labor intensive, and AI can help a lot with that. We work with a company, fullest. I'm sure you've heard of that, and we do a no-show program with them. It's sort of a pilot program. Helps us identify patients that are at risk for no-show, and we can give them a reminder call. We work with an AI company that allows an app on your cell phone to remind you of your annual mammograms. It can be very helpful. One of the most exciting things that we do with AI is we work with like a company called Subtle Medical Products, Subtle MR, and also some of the major vendors. GE has a product, and this uses AI to allow us to scan patients between, I would say, 45 to 75% faster, which is amazing because, patients don't really everyone, all of us generally will go through an MRI, at least one in our lifetime, but we don't really want to lie still in the magnet for 30 minutes. So we can get our patients out quicker than half the time now, but yet with improved image quality. So it's a win-win for patients who can get in and out quicker. It's better for the radiologist because they have better image quality, and it's better for the imaging facility efficiency. So that's a very exciting, that's going to revolutionize everything. I predict that every imaging center everywhere in the world will soon be using AI to do this kind of thing, because there's just no downside at all. And I personally have been using AI in my clinical neuroradiology practice for the last 14 years. So I work with Cortex and also another company, Icometrics. And these products, Cortex products, NeuroQuant and IcoBrain, I use these on patients that have potential dementia or seizures or multiple sclerosis or brain trauma. And what this does is it measures, it's called quantitative volumetric imaging. And all that means is it's measuring things in the brain and can compare that to a large normative database. So for example, as we age, we all, start to memory loss, unfortunately, over time. And the question is that just normal aging, or could that be an emerging neurodementia syndrome like Alzheimer's disease? And so these products are very helpful. In fact, our neurologists, once they use them, they'll keep ordering them every single time for patients with these indications, because it will measure substructures of the brain that are pertinent to things like memory loss, which would be the hippocampi, and then compare that to a large normative database. So you know whether that degree of brain volume loss is just normal for age, or whether you're sort of outside of the norm for age, which may be an indicator that you're actually developing something like Alzheimer's disease. And so that is very useful. And they also have new developments where they help us to measure brain tumors and help in identifying strokes early, which can save lives. So that's a very exciting area. And then we also work with a company called Ezra, which can help detect prostate cancer early and measure tumors within the prostate. And then a very interesting new development, RadNet incorporated a company called Deep Health recently, and that helps in early screening for breast cancer on mammograms. It turns out, and this is just amazing, it actually just came out in an article in Nature, but turns out that the AI algorithm can recognize breast cancer on a mammogram up to 2 years earlier than expert radiologists, which is just amazing. So radiologists can work together with this AI technology and really help save lives with it.
Wow, you're right. It definitely will be changing all aspects of our world, I think, as a whole. So that is absolutely amazing. Now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, there are some concerns about that. I mean, maybe a radiologist would say, well, gosh, if that's going to do that for us and for our patients 2 years in advance, well, then what am I really still needed? I think a lot of people are worried about that.
Yes, that's an excellent question. And it's actually a question I get a lot. And so the answer to that is really no. AI is an outstanding tool, but it really remains just that. It's a tool. So AI enhances medical providers' abilities, but it can't replace that human interaction. Although AI is better at pattern recognition, humans are really better at global reasoning. So no radiologist that I'm aware of has ever lost a job to AI, and I don't anticipate that they will in the near future. It's really designed to work hand in hand with humans, so that humans do what they're good at, AI does what it's good at, and finding that we can do extraordinary things when we work together with AI. So, as the population ages and more and more of us are needing imaging for their health workup and for diagnosis and for treatment planning, we're finding that AI can really improve medical imaging in all areas. So it's a welcome addition. It's not something to be afraid of. RadNet always, before we ever adopt a new AI product, we always confirm its efficacy and also its safety before we ever use it with patients.
That's good to know. And then, of course, you said it's already being used now. So what would be the future of AI for RadNet?
Well, the future is really it's going to continue growing. There are new AI products that are coming out all the time. It happens to be a passion of mine, so I'm very involved with the industry and always watching out for things. But it's something that we are going to be using more and more in a way that is, when we find things that are beneficial to patients, then we're going to start using it. And, AI products, there are certain products that we don't use so much at RadNet, but that are extremely helpful, like in a hospital setting where you have more acute critical findings. So AI products, for example, triage products, identify neck fractures and pulmonary embolisms, which is a clot in your arteries in your lungs that can cause you to stop breathing, and other things like that. It can identify that earlier, like brain bleeds, and then mark those studies stat So they reviews the images before it ever gets to the radiologist. And then when the radiologist pulls up their work list, they see a stat study that the AI has said, okay, hey, listen, there's something abnormal here. Look at this quickly. And then we can then call the team and interpret it. And again, that can help save lives. And with the strokes, we've now found that this AI technology, not only does it find, so a stroke is basically where you have a blood clot that, blocks an artery in your brain and then causes those brain cells to die. It's very, very important on the timing for strokes. You want to treat immediately because we can actually really help. For every 1 minute you go without blood flow to your brain, we actually lose 1.9 million brain cells. Wow. So this AI technology will find the clot, and within 6 minutes, it will actually, this particular product I'm talking about, will alert the entire stroke team. So the neuroradiologist, the neurologist, the interventionist, everyone, and we can get that patient on the table, put in a clot retrieval device and remove that clot, and the patient can wake up perfectly normal again. And so there are very, very exciting ways that AI is helping to save lives. And that's just going to keep getting better and better as technology improves and that, innovation improves.
Wow. Well, that is certainly a lot of information. And I mean, I really enjoyed hearing all of that. And I look forward to learning more, which is great. And you're a wonderful speaker. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right. And we'll be right back after this.